Investing Insights with Right Property Group, exploring trends in real estate and helping property investors gain financial security.
G'day everyone, and it's Victor Kumar here again, and this is the episode without Phil, so really meaty stuff here today. And today's guest, I've been working on him, trying to get him here for about a year. He lives not far from me, and a little bit of history before we get started, and before I let Bobby do the talking. He was a handyman that came to my place and started working on a few things, and if you can picture this muscular bloke with beard and Reshmi ogling at him, and so of course the guards were up, and we started having a conversation, and one thing led to another. And the reason why I wanted to bring him here today is that he is a true example of education, knowledge, and then implementation. Because when I first met Bobby is he was a young bloke, still is, youngish bloke. He had just stepped down from Muay Thai, from what I can imagine, wrestling and all of those things, and so he was really buff, and but he was hungry, and he was hungry for knowledge and hungry to get started in investing. And that was, how long ago was that, Bobby?
Ooh, maybe 2014, I think, 13, 14, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, so 10-year journey, and that's what I want to explore, is how it all mapped out, starting from the very first conversation, because that's how it really started. Was you called a bluff on me, saying, well, how about a property for me? How about a property for Bobby? Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll call the bluff, and we put a property in front of you, and the rest was absolute history.
Yeah. Ooh, so where do we start?
Well, let's start with the background of what you were doing before, and then you transitioned into doing work for your own self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. If we're starting from the beginning, I'm a second-generation Australian from a hard-working ethnic family in the southwestern Sydney suburb of Campbelltown. I was working for the government and also on the side doing my little handyman and carpentry business. And I was working on a house, and a landlord happened to rock up, tall, dark and handsome, as they say. And he picked up a house in Ingleburn, and I quizzed him on the house. How much did he get it for, and what was he planning on doing with it? And I thought that was it. And a couple of days later, I'm working on another house, and the same guy rocks up. I was thinking, oh, hang on a minute, what's
happening here?
What's happening here? And 3, 4, 5 properties later, I thought this guy must be the Fiji Indian Don of Campbelltown, a mafia man. So I started quizzing you about properties, and when I was in high school, I was exposed to positive gearing through the Money magazine, and they used to have a TV show on
I remember that.
Channel 9.
Yeah.
And there was a guy I watched, his name was Hans Jacoby.
Mm-hmm.
And at 16, I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor or earning big bucks, as they say. So I was obsessed with money, because we didn't really have much growing up. It was a bit of a tough upbringing. And I bought this when I was 16 years old. I had 2 jobs at that time. I bought a little, it's a, what do they call it? Like a home study kit. Mm-hmm. Big box full of DVDs and books and whatnot. And
from Hans Jacoby?
From Hans Jacoby.
I actually still have got that as well.
And it opened my eyes a lot, and it pretty much went against the grain of everything that any old ethnic would tell you about investing. They would say, buy one house, pay it off, buy one more, pay it off, and that by the end of your life, you'll be lucky if you have 2 properties. And I remember in that magazine, he was going on about buying in Mount Druitt back then, and it was about, I don't know, circa 120K for a property.
Yep.
And I closed all that after finishing and started working. I was 18, 19 years old, and never thought about it again until I saw you. And that's where it began.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and one of the things that really stuck with me when you told me your story was how your father gave you a coin that I use all the time, which is you need to learn to be comfortable to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, so that he instilled in me growing up. I don't know, I think he was a bit too rough. We'd wake up in the morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and train, and then we'd do some aerobics style. That's where I picked up all my dance moves. And after that, I'd have a cold shower, and he'd always remind me to be uncomfortable, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So
yeah, and so that led to, obviously, with us talking and you working on a few of my properties and then a few of my clients' properties as well, to you actually reaching out and saying, okay, how about a property for Bobby? And we ended up with a place in Wollongong.
Yes,
yeah,
in Warrawong.
Warrawong, yep. And I still remember you saying to me that you called all of your friends to suss out the area.
Yeah, and everyone was saying, no, stay away, don't go there. But even my wife was crying and up in arms, why there? But I from the things that I read in Hans Jacobi's stuff and from the knowledge that you were instilling in me, I decided to pursue that, and I think we purchased that for 240.
So we're not talking unit, we're talking a legit house.
House and land. I think back then it was about 100K under market value, which was a good little find. And I think today it's got a granny flat on there now, and I think would be around the $1 million mark for a value for that.
For a simple exercise, less than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And financing back then was still hard. Is still hard now because of how you're employed, and also because the bank keeps moving the goalposts.
The goalposts, yeah.
So once we had that, and that was matched to your skill set because you do know trades.
Yeah,
right?
so I could fix the property. Needed a bit of love and nothing too extravagant, but we're looking at renovating the bathroom now after 10 years. So it's had a good run.
Yeah. So obviously with that, that became the cornerstone of the portfolio. You already had your own home before we got started. So. The next property was really a unit, wasn't it? It was a townhouse.
Townhouse in Logan Lee. Yeah, that was. That one was another one where everyone was telling me don't go there, but it looks like that. I don't know. I'm the one laughing to the bank at the moment.
Yes,
so.
yeah. So it does. So the message we're trying to give here is that if you do what everyone else is doing, you'll get their result, right? Whereas you need to match it to your own circumstances and your own skill set and your own capability, right? So at the time you're starting a new business, you're ramping things up. So we couldn't get into too heavy and negative cash flow. So we were targeting more of the easier to hold properties. They were not necessarily positive, but they were near neutral in most cases, right? Back then with the interest rates as they were, and obviously. That townhouse has paid dividends over the years, but it did nothing for a little while and sort of sat there. Yeah.
And then overnight it just pretty much doubled in price.
Yeah,
so.
And this is understanding cycles in the areas and understanding that different states have different cycles. And I want to go really quickly through the portfolio so that we can then talk about the psychology behind all of this and the lessons that we've learned, right? So after we bought the townhouse, where did we go next?
I ended up, after the townhouse, I took the knowledge and started looking around for myself and found 3 properties in Cessnock. These are what the locals refer to as dongers.
Yes.
They look like little aircraft hangars, and I think they were from the early 1900s for migrant workers to come and work in the mines, if I'm not mistaken. And I picked those 3 up. I was working for the prison system, and they were saying that they were going to expand the prison over in Cessnock. So I did a bit of research to see what the property market was doing up there, and purchased 3 house and lands side by side. Purchased them for $145 each, and they were renting at the time for about $150 a week.
Okay, so you couldn't really make them fail.
No, it's very hard for them to fail.
Yeah. And so what did you do with those properties? I know that we went backwards and forwards a little bit to decide what to do with them. What's the end play with those at the moment?
End play was I built a granny flat on one of them, and the cost of building these days is out of this world. Everything's too expensive. So for now, I'm leaving them as they are with the granny flat on them, and then we'll see how we go down the track.
And did you build the granny flat yourself, or did you get a builder to build?
Being the distance that it is from Sydney, I did a couple of renovations up there and learnt the hard way. Sometimes it's best just to make your money on one where you are and
let someone else do it.
Get someone else to do it.
Yeah.
I ended up, I did a renovation there, and it costed me 3 times the amount that it would normally cost because of the time that I'd spent to go up.
Yeah, and the jobs you lost on this end.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, so. And then from there, obviously, that reset your financials because you now had a bit of equity behind you, along with Warrawong. Did you then build a granny flat on Warrawong next, or did you buy something else?
Warrawong was next. Yes, so Warrawong was next on the list. We built a granny flat. I think we paid about $130 back then for it, and the granny flat's probably the best performer out of everything there. Yeah. It's renting more than the house at the main house on the block. So.
Yeah. So what's it renting for at the moment?
It's renting for $460 per week.
Okay. Yeah. It's not bad return, right? You're spending $130. Mind you can't do granny flats for $130 anymore.
No.
Yeah. But this is one of the things that as investors people need to understand is that time is actually money, right? So the longer you procrastinate and leave things, the more you're going to pay for it anyhow, right? And I'm our testimony to that as well, because one of my granny flats in inverted commas in the Loganshire just before COVID was going to cost me, a 3-bedroom granny flat was going to cost me $157,000. I'm actually building it right now because I procrastinated, and it's cost me $309,000, right? So. Yeah. It does hurt. Yeah. So you did that at the right time, and it actually corrected the cash flow quite a bit. Yeah. Because around that time the rate started to creep up as well, and you're flipping to principal and interest, and it was a bit hard for you to refinance out because you're self-employed. Your accountant at the time was doing some aggressive tax planning, which meant that borrowing was out the window unless we went to very creative lenders that looked at your balance sheet as opposed to your cash flow. Yeah. So from memory, the next foray was in Melbourne.
Nor Lane. Yes. These are all basically the Campbell towns of
the states, different states. Yeah.
So I ended up driving to that one to renovate that one as well.
So you drove from Sydney to Melbourne
to Melbourne, stayed there for a week, and did the renovator rescue or the backyard blitz episodes where we just worked day and night. And
was it just you or a couple of mates?
Me and my old man and one mate of mine, but I'll never be doing that again.
So what was this house, and what did you do to it?
It was a 3-bedroom house. We just did a couple of basic things: flooring, carpets, blinds, painting, and there were a couple of things that weren't up to Australian standards. That I think there was a pergola. We just got rid of that. And just made it pretty enough for people to call it a home.
Yep. And have you still got that?
Still got it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And what did we buy that at? From memory, I think that had 2 lettable areas, right?
Yes, $260. I think we paid for it. And I think now it's
gone up and then it's come back down again because it's gone through its cycle. So it's at the bottom of the market there now. So I dare say that we'd be in the 4s for that easily. And as the market takes off, then definitely at one stage it was above 500 on that. Yeah, so
you should have called me then.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, hindsight is always 20/20, isn't it? Yeah. So and then came the big purchase, right?
Yeah, so I went through a bit of a premature midlife crisis. The portfolio was sitting pretty. I wasn't pulling anything out of my pocket to keep things running. And then, a few years later, we've got a little family and we're outgrowing our owner occupier. We wanted to buy something bigger, and I've always wanted to live on a bit of land, so I got myself a little acreage at the back of Campbelltown with the forever home. And the end plan is trying to get into there. So it looks like I'll be selling something from the portfolio. I'm not sure what yet. I'm leaning towards my owner occupier because I like the thought of the money coming in, and the no tax. Yeah, so that's where we're up to now. And it's been the past couple of years has been a bit tough with the interest rates and how work's been, but I think we're getting there. The end. The goalposts, I can see them in the distance. So.
Yep. And so we did go backwards and forwards with this property in terms of, okay, when do we move in? Do we rent it out? And there was all this consideration, and especially with the kids growing up as well, and not losing that window of having that property and enjoying it with them. Right? So we're now starting to pull the trigger to actually move into there.
Yeah.
And it's a big psychological shift, right? Because that's a much larger debt. And all of a sudden that debt's going to get unmasked because there's no rental income coming from it, which would mean that you have to pick up a few more jobs or sell something.
Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of the goals that you started with, was there a finite goal that you had started with when you started investing, or was it just you fell into it?
When we began, the goal was to create a passive income of about 100K per year. That's what I thought I would need to live comfortably and to be in my house, the house that I was in then. But as time went on, I got married. The wife wanted to stay at home and look after the kids. So now I've got to earn some more money. So that went from 100 to 150 to it just keeps growing at the moment. But the goal now it's if we can be in this farm and have 150 coming in per year, I think the rest will be all right.
Yeah. And it does take time to get clarity on that, right? Because when it began, it was like, okay, I just want a property and I want to make some money, but we were not really defining what type of money. We're focusing more on, okay, I want to make some equity, make some value out of this property. But the journey has slowly but surely morphed towards, okay, I really want cash flow, which is equating to lifestyle for my portfolio, as opposed to how many properties, what's the value of this. It's more drilling down to, let's get to that 150K in passive income with minimal debt, so that we can actually ease back on work. We're not totally reliant on work, but more importantly, we can enjoy the family life. Yeah. And so in that journey, you've grown substantially.
Yeah. Both on my waist and...
I wasn't going to mention that. You played Santa Claus to my kids. They still rib me about it because they actually recognized your voice. That didn't quite work. But yeah, we've grown in terms of mindset, right? So in the initial stages, you're trying to try pretty much every strategy under the sun, because you'd go after one piece of literature and really drill down into that and say, okay, this is me, and then you'd come and have our Mr. Miyagi talks.
Yeah,
yes,
I'd call you my Mr. Miyagi because, like the Karate Kid, I'm eager to fight, and then you'll bring me back into line and tell me to focus on the basics and sand the floor. Wax on, wax
that's
off.
It. Wax on, wax off. Yeah. And this is like no joke. Yeah, you would call me up and say, hey, I need a Mr. Miyagi chat.
Yeah.
Right. And we'd get together and we'd go through the portfolio. We'd go through your thought process, because it's important to sound it out with people. Someone that's actually got a vested interest in your success, but also not an emotional interest in your success. Yeah. So I could look at it objectively, whereas for you it was a mixture of subjective, objective, emotional, and the the rev head comes out of in terms of property investing. So let's go. Yeah. So were there any close calls in the portfolio in terms of what you would have done differently?
What I would have done differently, if I could borrow more but get more properties, that's what I would have done. We've done a couple of flips along the way, which helped pay down a bit of the debt. unfortunately, the market's a bit crazy at the moment, and we haven't been able to do anything in the past 2 or 3 years. So
Yes.
differently, in hindsight, the journey's been great. I wouldn't change much other than if I could become more creative with attaining more finances to purchase more properties or do more flips. I think that's the only thing I would do differently.
Yeah. So you mentioned flips, and that was done to help reduce debt and create, as businesses slowed down, to create a bit more of a holding capital to hold on to the fundamental portfolio, right? And this was more, if I remember at Penrith, it was more of a opportunistic thing than anything else. And it's always been the case of, okay, it's there, let's change. Let's capture this opportunity, make sure that we're not eroding whatever we've got so far, to then see how else we can value add into the portfolio. And I'm a strong believer of, you're really investing for lifestyle, comfort of life.
Yeah.
And if we take away all the noise, that's what it boils down to, right? Comfort of life.
Yeah, and having the option to do what you would want to do rather than what you have to do every day. So
Yeah. And so a few overseas trips as well in amongst the journey?
Yeah, a couple. I wish we could have more, but finances and little kids and life gets in the way. But hopefully we're changing that moving forward.
Yep. And so if everything was possible, what would you do in terms of the portfolio? Let's say finance had totally opened up for you. Where would you buy? Or more importantly, what would you buy?
What would I buy? Well, look, that's where I'd first engage you. But
this is the right answer.
Yeah, so I'd talk to Mr. Miyagi first. I'd phone a friend and see what my options are. But I think after this owner occupied starts getting paid down, we're going to be pretty heavily positively geared. So I'd probably, for some tax benefits, I'd probably look at buying
more growth properties.
Yeah, growth properties.
Yeah, and it was a leading question, right? Because your portfolio goes through its phases of initially that we're focusing on growth because the immediate is either you're moving the needle, which was a Warrawong. We actually created the growth there, and it was a property that wasn't appealing to most people because it was rough and ready, but it was right up your alley in terms of skill set. So we made it really pretty. Once we bought it, well, it's still
pretty
not
enough.
as pretty.
Couple
pretty
of
enough,
glasses of wine and
yes,
much prettier.
she's prettier. That's it. And so as that growth happened, then our tilt became more towards, okay, let's try and get some cash flow because you can see it starting to cramp lifestyle. Then as that took time, we moved towards a few flips to create chunks of money to pay down debt, and off the back of those equity that we've picked up, then we've picked up the acreage for our forever home. And now it's done a full 360. Now we're focusing on growth again. And we're not shy to sell down properties because it actually gets you to the lifestyle aspect of property investing.
The acreage was never in the plan from the start. It was just within the last couple of years I've realised there's more to life, and watching my kids grow so quickly, I wanted to give them the opportunity to have land and animals and to live kind of like the farm lifestyle that our family wanted.
Yeah. So what drives Bobby?
What drives Bobby? What could I say? Family, kids. My wife drives me up the wall, that's for sure. But no, I'm joking. I love you, Nina. But
good save.
Look, I would definitely say my family and friends drive me. I like to. I guess I don't know. Other than that, for now, my focus is just family
Yeah.
family and friends.
It's really an interesting answer, isn't it, Bobby? Because
It was money when I was younger.
Yeah, there you go, right? which is what I'm leading to, right? When you realize that you can actually get to the money, the real drivers come through, right? Which is always been family, it's always friends, it's always health. All of those things become your driver, as opposed to money, because money is really the vehicle over here, and you can't really put value on family. Right? You can put value on houses, you can put value on money, but you can't put value on family.
I guess what drives me a better one-word answer would be time.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to have the time with the kids and with the family rather than working so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to this couple of moves that we've made, I would never be able to afford this acreage that we're going to be moving on to without having made those moves that we did.
Yeah,
those years ago.
Yeah. And so it's been a 10-year journey, right? So it's not like overnight and bang.
No.
We bought a couple of properties and then you've leveraged into an acreage. Theoretically, it's possible, but we took, even though it does not feel like it, but we took a slower pace to get here, because we had several milestones along the way, right? So we had obviously initially setting up the portfolio, then self-employment, then marriage, then kids. Right, and all along that process, we're still accumulating. We're still looking at the debt and saying, okay, how can we best handle it, and making sure that we're not redlining ourselves into you working 24/7 to hold on to the portfolio and become a slave to the portfolio. It was the other way around. And so, mindset-wise, how does your dad feel about the debt?
So, at the beginning of the journey, my dad was in his big, thick Yugoslavian accent, "You idiot!" He was always telling me I'm out of my mind for getting so much debt and buying so many properties. But now when he's out with his buddies, now it's
Bobby's this, Bobby's that.
Yeah, you should see my son. He's a property investor.
And
he taught me everything.
Yes, yeah, of course, right? And they live vicariously through us, right? And it is a big mind shift change, and I've got the same issue with my dad, is that we don't talk property because he can't fathom debt, and how debt is a enabler, not necessarily a disabler, right? So you've also got your family into investing as well. I know that we helped your sister.
Yes, she's got three or four properties now. But she's a lot more passive than I am. I really like to chase, and I'll call you every couple of weeks if I have to annoy you about finding me properties.
And the answer would always be no, we're not ready yet. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's there, right? So with the sister, we got her a house plus when we built a granny flat in Logan. We got a unit, townhouse, and then we got a renovator in the Macarthur area for her as well.
Yes,
yeah. So and that was during COVID.
Yes, that was a good buy. She's going to be moving into that one. That's going to be her owner occupier. And you also got her one down in Melbourne.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so sort of emulating your portfolio, but in a much more slower pace, and you can see that the fundamentals don't change. The areas, the look and feel of the areas don't change. The properties definitely change, and it's really cyclical in nature. Yeah, you have friends that invest as well.
Yeah, I bought a couple of friends your way, which is look, for me, I'm like one of your disciples. I'll go out to the crowds and preach, and everyone will look at me like a madman on the corner. But if someone will listen, I'll tell them how much you've helped me. I mean, in simple terms, you've made me rich. So rich more so with time than money. Yeah, and that's what's more important to me. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Comment. In your circle of friends, in your wider community, are there people that have gone a different journey in terms of investing and then has swung back your way or has tried to coach you into doing different things as well?
All the time. But at the end of the day, I try and take advice from people that have proven success. So I'll have people tell me, "Oh, we'll knock this house down, we'll build a duplex, and we'll make money together." And then once you crunch the numbers and look at what they've got in their own portfolio, it's if it doesn't add up, then I won't go down the track.
Yeah.
But a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy, and then a couple of years down the track, they realise slow and steady does win the race.
Yeah, and it's important, right, to acknowledge that it's the numbers that matter, not the number of properties, but the numbers on the property. And we always need to be investing in the initial stages, investing within our means. But then the investing turns for our means, right? So when you turn the loans around, when you turn the rationalize the portfolio, sell down a few, build on a few, because we've still got the Cessnock ones parked where we can go back and build on them at some point in time. And
the numbers back then didn't add up, so we left them as is, and it was a good thing. You mentioned spending or building within your means. I've had a few friends that a couple of things like COVID and the interest rates now, which has just torn them to shreds. They're not doing too well at all. They've over leveraged and borrowed more than they can handle.
They can service at the moment.
It's not looking pretty for them at the moment.
Yeah. You got to look at it always from the worst case scenario. Worst advice you've ever had?
Worst advice I've ever had? It's not suitable for the podcast. I don't know. In terms of property, probably from my parents is buy that one house, pay it off, and then once that's paid off, move to the next. So now I don't fear debt. When I open up my online app and look at all the loans and debt I've got, I get a bit frantic, but you learn to control that.
Because it's the money that you need to chip in to hold on to the debt that really matters. It's not the amount of debt that you've got, right? And that took a while to drum in.
Yes. I mean, last night I just went online to check realestate.com and see what figures we were looking at, and I was blown away of how much things have gone up by the equity that's available right now. So portfolio.
But the frustrating thing though is that you can't necessarily tap into all of the equity, right? Because of finance. And maybe that's a good thing as well, because it allows it to cook slowly in the background.
That's it.
Rather than us over leveraging. If you had this journey all over again, let's say Bobby of age 21. Apart from chasing the girls, what advice would you give yourself?
I've only ever chased one girl, and that's my wife. What was the question again?
What advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self, to be more comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'd say I'd really try and push that more, and to be patient. Not to rush things. I think another thing I would say is to look for people. I think call it the universe, or call it God, or I was in the time where I met you. I was looking at what's it called? Is it called The Wish? The laws of attraction.
Oh, The Secret.
The Secret.
Yes.
I was reading the book on The Secret, and then you just happened to pop up. So, I definitely. I don't know where I was going with that, but
so really looking at someone that's got the runs on board and getting into the right mindset, getting into the right circles,
getting into the right circles and getting the right advice. I'd definitely be looking around, and it's tough. There was no one like you back when I was looking at properties. It was always people looking at negative gearing and investing for tax cuts rather than building a portfolio for passive income.
But you had the foundations set up by listening to Hans Jacoby, right? And for those that want to search him up, really, really good information. The information is still current today, and I think I'm not sure whether he's still around or not.
I don't know. The last I saw, he was on a big farm.
Yes,
a few hundred acres, living his dream. So
I still have those DVDs of his, and yes, that was my foundational years when I was a voracious consumer of information, right? And the problem now is
too much
too much information.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you call me often to say, hey, have you seen this? And we drill down through the ads and all that, and doesn't stack up. So for someone that's just starting, it's a two-pronged question. Yeah. For someone that's just starting out, what advice would you give them? And then the second tier to that question, someone that's already got a portfolio, what advice would you give to them?
The first thing would be valid for both. That would be to find yourself a Mr. Miyagi and see what credentials and what they've been through. There's a lot of, I've noticed now, there's a lot of buyers agents everywhere, but I think an important thing would be to see what trials and tribulations they've gone through, how many cycles they've gone through, because numbers can be easily manipulated.
Yeah.
So I'd find someone with a lot of experience and what else would that would be my main thing that I would find. And advice would be really live within your means and budget conservatively, because when tough times come, it's good to be on this side of the fence where I'm not stressing out too much, as opposed to a couple of friends that have really overcapitalized and borrowed up to their teeth.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Those two.
And for someone that's already got a portfolio and is currently chasing the market, trying to get the next deal, what would you say to them?
Trying to get the next deal. I don't know. I wouldn't say check what the RBA says about their interest rates, because when I bought my property, when I bought the farm, they said we're not touching anything for a couple of years. Interest rates will stay the same.
And like clockwork, 6 months later.
Yeah, I didn't lock it in, idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely find yourself a Mr. Miyagi. Do the research and stick to the basics of the fundamentals, as you guys keep drumming down in the podcast. The fundamentals are there. They're called fundamentals for a reason, and they do work. So, I found 3 properties on my own from using the fundamentals, but I would often call you up and say, I think maybe 20 times, hey, I just found the property listed in such and such area, and you say, yeah, we're already in negotiations for that one. So.
Yeah. And it's important that you mention the fundamentals, right? Because by sticking to the fundamentals, we were able to get into the acreage. By sticking to the fundamentals, we're not way above in terms of negative cash flow. And we were able to still have a fulfilled life, whilst we're investing as well and miles ahead than what the stats show in terms of property ownership. Yeah. If there was a regret apart from not buying enough properties, what would the regret be in terms of the portfolio? What would you change in the mechanics of your portfolio today?
I think, I don't know, because hindsight's a beautiful thing. I think I would have rather, I feel like I would have rather been better to, rather than outlaying the big money and buying the acreage, I feel like I could have done a couple more smaller investments first and then moved on to that. I think life would have been a little bit more easier, but that's only knowing how the market has gone.
That's right, yeah. But you bought the acreage at a time when it was cheap.
It was cheap,
yeah. And it's pretty much gone, 30-40% up.
Yes, and in saying that, it's a lot harder for me to get a hold of finances now lending than it was back then. So I don't know. I think the way it's gone, it's been good. I would have purchased a couple more properties if I could have.
Yeah. So basically, make the hay while the sun shines.
That's right.
Yeah. Bobby, thank you for coming. I know it's been a while to get you here. You've gone away from your tools to actually be in this podcast here today. Looks like I'll be shouting you lunch. We'll go to Macca's after this.
That's extraordinary. An Indian shouting someone.
Well, there you go. So for those of you that are listening, if you found this useful, if you found this inspiring, please share this with your friends. Like or subscribe the podcast, whichever platform you're listening to it or viewing it. And if you have any questions at rightpropertygroup.com.au. And until next time, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature, does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs, and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you.